The following is a special sports presentation of the Iowa Television Network.
The Huskies came into Iowa City looking for a new spark, but instead they met the Hawkeye combination of Vlasic and Bayless. Hawkeyes go 2-0. Highlights and more on the Hayden Fry Show tonight.
The Hayden Fry Show is being brought to you in part by Amana Refrigeration and the Amana Retailers of Iowa. When you know exactly what you want, Amana. And by John Deere Consumer Products. Remember, nothing runs like a deer.
Hayden, your former assistant at SMU, Jerry Pettibone, now the coach of Northern Illinois, said after the game that you are a better ball club than you were a year ago. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I'm happy to hear that. Based on the way we played, Jim, I would think that'd be an accurate observation.
Okay, you scored 100 points in 2 weeks, and your defense, once again, against the Northern Illinois club was just sensational.
Well, we put a priority on trying to get turnovers because we're a wishbone football team, a high-risk type of team, and plus the fact it was raining pretty heavy, and we had 8 turnovers, and we actually recovered 5 of them, so I think that they achieved their objective.
Right, and I think those resulted, practically all of them in touchdowns, didn't they, after?
Well, we scored 5 of the 8 times, and which is pretty good batting average.
It certainly is. Now, on offense, your defense came along very good. How'd you feel about your offense as you generated 57 points?
Well, the offense is becoming better and better as a unit. They're gaining a lot of confidence. The big, strong offensive linemen are doing a better job. I think Vlasic was sacked 1 time, and they opened some tremendous holes for Hudson and Bayless and some of the other fellas. And, you know, I'm extremely pleased at this stage.
Well, of course, and Harmon, you know, was starting out as #1. He was injured. Now Bayless came on just at a sensational day, didn't he?
Well, I'm not for sure. I think you have his stats, but it was really phenomenal.
Okay, Rick Bayless with 8 carries for 167 yards. David Hudson, 12 carries for 130 yards and 103 yards. And now you can see how slippery that field is. Hawkeyes recover a fumble. This was part of your game plan, right?
That's right. That was Keaton Smiley from, I believe, Duncanville, Texas, making the tackle.
And here we have the man himself, #20, David Hudson.
This is the first play of the game for Iowa on offense, and you can see the 240-pounder. He's got some swivel hips, plus he's got great acceleration, goes all the way in for a touchdown.
And that's your new power formation, and David Hudson takes advantage of it. 43 yards for the TD. Outland makes it a 7-0 game, and now we're going to see the wishbone.
Well, all wishbone teams try to establish a fullback, and we had some injured people, Jim, and some of the other fellows that moved in to nose guard, like Breeze, just did an exceptional job.
And look at that, the work that the Iowa defense is doing. That was George Davis coming up there with a big tackle on Taylor. You force him to kick. Now watch this one.
Well, we had great pressure on the punter. I thought their punter did an outstanding job. This is Peter Marciano. He zigged when he should have zagged. Actually, the Northern Illinois player reached in from behind and jerked the ball out.
Okay, and here we have Marshall Taylor, the quarterback.
I'm sure the reason we got these shots is to show the viewing audience all of the bad weather that we're having during the ball game.
Right, there was some bad weather, no question about that. Temperature was nice and warm, and now we have Mr. Bayless going on the surge.
Had some excellent downfield blocking. The wide receivers plus the tight end, Mike Flagg, very good. That was Mark Sindlinger downfield throwing a key block.
Gain of 18, and Bayless once again.
Now he's going over to Bob Cratch and Herb Wester's side of the line and doing an excellent job of running again.
Okay, Bayless was the workhorse there in the first half for the Hawkeyes, along with, of course, Hudson, and now Mark Vlasic back.
Throwing a strike to Jim Morrow, the young man that caught 3 touchdown passes last week against Iowa State.
And here comes David Hudson, #20.
Waxahachie, Texas. I've said this many times, Jim. I've always wanted a fullback from Waxahachie, Texas.
You got a fullback and a half. In fact, you got about 2 of them, I think, in one guy.
That's right. Look at this run by Bayless. Everything, the pursuit overruns, and he cuts back across the grain, goes in standing up for the touchdown.
Right guard for TD. Now watch this play here. And that was not rehearsed, but it turned out like it was rehearsed.
Very slippery ball. Our holder dropped it, and we work on that, though, Jim, so that the offensive linemen don't go downfield, but the receivers do.
Hawkeyes to flag, and 2 points instead of 1 point on that one. Very, very alert play. And you see the Iowa defense now, how tough it is against Marshall Taylor, their quarterback, and now another fumble.
I really felt sorry for their entire ball club, but particularly the quarterback. He's a tremendous little athlete, and we just didn't give him an opportunity to operate.
Okay, the Hawkeyes back on offense now.
This is one of the longest runs in the history of Iowa football. Rick Bayless breaking off tackle.
4th longest run in history, going for 87 yards. And you can see, you know, he has deceptive speed. Probably a lot of people, we said after the game, don't realize how fast this young man really is.
And he's in super physical condition. He wins the wind sprints each day that we run them, and has great endurance.
Rick Bayless, 87 yards down the sideline for the TD. Hawkeyes now leading 12-0. Correction, 22-0, I should say. And PAT, of course, is good. And during the course of this game, Rob Outland ties the all-time Iowa record, Hayden, for 40 in a row.
Well, I believe it. He's one of the most gifted athletes I've ever had the pleasure to be associated with. And this was their longest run from scrimmage. And that young man, Rodney Taylor, I certainly hope he's not hurt, but he left the game later. He was injured. Tremendous athlete.
And that shows you your defense coming in and just hitting them from every play.
That's right. Keaton Smiley, Kerry Burt, George Davis, Richard Pryor, all of those fellows did an excellent job.
All right, that was a fumble, and now we have Vlasic throwing another strike downfield.
Well, we need to practice throwing the ball in the rain because we may have some Big Ten games in the rain, Jim. We didn't throw much, but that was a tremendous pass by Vlasic to Jim Morrow.
Okay. And so the Hawkeyes continue to move that football.
Well, that was a screen pass. Pretty rough play there. I always get a big kick out of watching youngsters' reaction after the play.
And once again, as they try some fancy stuff out there, the Hawkeyes come up recovering a fumble. You can see how slick that field is.
Right, that's Kerry Burt, a strong safety from Waterloo, Iowa.
Boy, your defensive backfield had great games. Burt and Crow and Keaton Smiley and all of them, didn't they?
Little trickery here. It was 3rd down and 1, short yardage, and excellent fake by Vlasic and Bayless. He hits Big Mike Flagg for a touchdown.
Mike Flagg going in from out around the 20-yard line.
That was a very well executed play on the part of Northern Illinois, and that was the longest game by the pass.
Right, of any play they had all day long. But now we see him going in the other direction.
That's Mike Burke from Davenport, Iowa, on the play.
Okay, halftime score, 36-0. And you had to be satisfied with the first half, didn't you?
Oh, I just knew you were going to ask me how did I feel.
Yeah, well,
I'll be able to tell you 36 points ahead. You know, Jim, I have mixed emotions. I really felt sorry for the other team because we were so dominated it, and but it was a well-played game by our football team.
Did you dominate it even more than you thought you would?
Oh, much more. We thought that it would be a pretty close game.
And then at halftime, of course, you well, I'll ask you that later on. What you told them at halftime, okay?
Okay.
Just go out and make a game out of it the second half. We'll look at the second half highlights, and there's some great ones in there right after this word. Coach, among other things, it seems to me you played through about 2 seasons in that game Saturday. First half was just about the worst kind of weather you can imagine. Sun came out in the second half.
Really unbelievable. Beautiful second half, Jim. But you know, the week before for the Iowa State game, it just raining cats and dogs till right up the kickoff and cleared off. It was beautiful. And then within 30 minutes after the game, it started raining again.
I'm not going to ask you what you told the squad, but how do you keep your team up when they got a 36-0 lead and a game that might be headed for a blowout, which it was?
Well, actually, we knew that we had to make another good drive at the beginning of the second half, and told the young men at the halftime that as soon as they did that, we'd start substituting freely, and that's what we did.
Okay, start of the second half then. Iowa with a 36-0 lead, and once again we're going to see Bayless, but Bayless didn't carry the ball that much in the second half, did he?
No, he and David Hudson only ran with the ball a couple of times the second half.
Well, we'll see right now. Rick Bayless. Nice blocking out there by David Hudson. Look at that guy block. He blocks the walls. He runs with the ball, doesn't he?
He is the best blocking fullback we've had at the University of Iowa.
Okay, Costerbala now punts, 43-yard punt, but it results in another Iowa possession.
That was a very high kick, great hang time, and Mark Missouri was there waiting for the guy to fumble, and sure enough he did. He recovered it.
So you made a nice gain on that punt there. Hawkeyes have the ball. Hit number 40, Missouri. He's got Billy Hample's old number, and tell us a little bit about Missouri.
Well, he's a walk-on from the state of Illinois. He goes about 6'2", 215 pounds, big fella, and really has developed. He's on scholarship now. We put him on scholarship. He's made so much progress. And
that was David Hudson, and now here's another strike going to the man we were just talking about, Missouri. Big gain of 18.
Yeah, he did a beautiful job, Jim, starting his first ball game.
Certainly did.
Look at that. That's just raw power.
Talk about power.
David Hudson in for the touchdown.
Yeah, yes, one of the big tanks of football today, David Hudson. Call him a Sherman tank. I think he's a little bit bigger than that, do we? Okay, gain now is Taylor. Tries to get the job done. Hawkeyes wind up with the ball back again, and Velocic once again goes to Missouri. And once again, it's Rick Bayless. Well, look at him turn on the afterburners. How'd you feel about Velocic's play overall?
Well, he did a real good job. Mark, you know, even on his bad days, still does a very acceptable job. And the ball was wet, it was raining, and look at big David Hudson run with the football.
Incredible. 5 guys to bring him down.
I'll tell you, he's worth the price of admission. Just come out and watch him run.
He really is. Talking about keeping a team honest, he does that, doesn't he?
I don't know how many times he carried it, Jim, but I think he rushed for over 100 yards again.
103. And there's McGuire, the big freshman quarterback, passing to David Hudson.
Well, I tell you, you need a butterfly net or a catcher's mitt to catch McGuire. He's 6'8", and he throws the ball downhill.
He sure does. Marshall Taylor now, trying to get away, and he's just hit by black jerseys all over the place. Hawkeyes recover again.
We had great penetration by the defensive team. I thought Coach Brazier and the defensive staff did a great job, as did Coach Bill Snyder, the offensive coordinator, and the offensive coaches, and we stick it in there again.
That was that rolling ball of butcher knives you always talk about.
That's right. That was Richard Bass from Omaha, Nebraska.
Another great defensive play, shed around, loss of 9, and once again, Kerry Burt was one of the guys responsible for that, certainly.
Well, we have number 3s, number 4s in there now, and they're doing a good job. That's Grant Goodman from Des Moines running with the ball.
He's recovered from his injuries, hasn't he?
Well, not bad. He's had a real bad ankle, and Grant's a real tough guy, and he wanted to play, so he did a good job.
McGuire's first pass completion.
And his first audible.
And okay. And
we weren't going to throw the ball, you know, that late, and Big Red just had to audibilize and did a super job.
Well, and here now we're going to watch young Mr. Bass from Omaha on a beautiful play.
Yeah, we lost the camera on the early part of that. Look at the excellent balance by Richard Bass.
I think we're going to see a replay on that one, Hayden. Watch how he gets the job done.
Very fine faking inside by Dan McGuire and Grant Goodman. Good blocking. That was Mark Springer making the key block on the defensive end.
So Richard Bass comes in with a TD, running very, very low to the ground. Now we see their second-string quarterback, Jenny Temple, and he does a pretty good job out there.
Yeah, he really did. He had our defensive guys really hustling. We've got smatterings of number 3 and 4. We played over 70 fellas in the game again, Jim, for 2 consecutive weeks, so we're getting valuable experience to our young people.
Gain of 19. They're helping to set up their only points of the ball game here, because with about 1 minute and 18 seconds to go, here it is. Taylor holding and Nelson kicking, and that is 3 points. And they finally get on the board, making it 57-3, which was the final score. Here's Tom Paholski.
Now, this is a run all the way. We're faking a pass here. I told him I'd shoot him if if he threw the ball, you know, this late in the game. We certainly didn't want to add any more embarrassment to Northern Illinois. And Paul Husky did a good job running, made about 9 yards.
Right, look what beautiful weather we have. Does that put a restriction on you, holding a big lead like that? You really don't want to run up the score anymore.
Well, yeah, it's really frustrating because the youngsters have worked out so hard, and you want them to play. You can't tell them just roll over and play dead. But yet we have to restrict them from throwing the ball and using a lot of our, and of course we don't use any of the exotics at that stage.
Hartley didn't play at all. Was he injured?
Yeah,
somehow?
he's injured. We had 3 fellows that were injured, didn't play. Kevin Harmon, the #1 running back, Steve Thomas, #1 nose guard, and Chuck Hartley, the #2 quarterback.
Okay, but the rest of the squad more than made up for it, and we'll be back with more of the Hayden Fry Show right after this.
13.
Well, as you know, on the Hayden Fry Show this year, we're doing the show actually on location, different football locations. And Hayden, this is a very impressive place we are now. I think some of the fans can probably recognize this giant mural, actually taken from a portrait of the immortal Niall Kinnick cracking in for a touchdown. Right in back of us, we have the Heisman Trophy. And this is called what? The Hall of Fame Lounge?
This is the Hall of Fame. This is the part of the building that connects our main complex, the dressing rooms, locker rooms, weight room, football offices, with the bubble, our indoor facility. And, you know, we've got the beautiful pictures on the walls, the All-Americans, the people participating in professional football, got some of the game balls, all of the balls that were actually used in the bowl games in recent years. And look at that photography. Isn't that beautiful?
That's great. It covers one whole wall, the picture of Niall Kinnick, and our director-producer has done another magnificent job here.
Well, I tell you, we brought old David right up from San Antonio, Texas, up here to Iowa, see, and he's just like me, just falling in love with it and doing a good job.
There you see the records of the Hawkeye Bowls. What do you intend to do totally with this as you go along?
Well, you know, it's such an interesting place, Jim. The visiting prospects can come in here and they can learn about Iowa football and the history in about 5 minutes' time. And it's also a nice lounge for our players to utilize. We have all kinds of television, cable television, so forth. When they have a few minutes a break in their schedule, they can come in and relax and watch television.
And now as you go along, you're going to keep adding to the cases as we see, the pictures of the games and the pictures of the stars. And going back to Niall Kinnick, you're going all the way back to 1939.
That's right. Yeah, we actually start with Niall Kinnick, but we'll finally have a part of the wall for some of the famous coaches that have been here. We might even find room to put Jim Zabel's picture up here.
That'd be great. I go back as far as just about anybody.
By the way, Tommy McDonald, who was an All-American at Oklahoma and a great professional football player, is the artist for all of these paintings that we have on the wall.
And you've only just begun, really, your gallery of paintings because you've got a lot more space to fill and a lot more stars to put in there, don't you?
Well, that's right. Well, Tommy ran out of paint, and so as soon as he gets some more paint, we'll get some more pictures on the wall.
Okay, this is called the Hall of Fame Lounge, and this is where the prospects come in, and I imagine they are impressed when they see this, aren't they?
Well, I think so, Jim. We're very proud of it. All of this is brand new. We have one of the most gorgeous physical plants in the nation for intercollegiate athletics, and Carver Hawkeye Arena in regards to basketball, wrestling, and all of those things are just super.
And, of course, we did our first show a couple of weeks ago from the bubble, which is not far from where we're seated right now. Hayden, let's talk about next week's game, Texas-El Paso, from your country down there in the tough country of Texas. And how good a team is this?
Well, they're much, much better than they have been in the past. You know, used to, Jim, they were one of the better teams in the United States when Cactus Jack Curtis was coaching down there. They've been on hard times, and they've got a new coach this year, and they're 2-1. I don't know the results of the Hawaii game at the time we make this particular show, but they've scored a lot of points. They lost right in the last minute of play to the Air Force Academy, 23-21. So, you know, they're going to be much tougher than the previous opposition. And
they love to throw that football, and you said you want your pass defense to get a good test going into the Michigan State game the following week.
Well, they're going to get a real good test. There's no question about that. Garza from UTEP can really throw the football.
Okay, Hayden, and we'll be back with more right after this. Hayden, the Iowa Hawkeyes have been tremendously impressive. You came into the Northern Illinois game leading the nation both in total offense, total defense, which is hard to do in any season. Now, you're going to be tested by this UTEP passing offense. How many times will they throw the ball game this coming throw the ball this coming Saturday.
Well, they've been throwing it, Jim, approximately 50 times a game.
So that will test your secondary, right?
I kind of believe that it will.
But
yeah.
that's exactly what you want them to do, don't you?
Well, that's true. We really do. And by having played a team like Iowa State that was multiple, and then playing a wishbone team with all the options, and now going in preparation for a passing team, that pretty well covers the waterfront.
Okay, you do lead the nation in the major departments. You lead the Big Ten in practically every major department, but coaches are never satisfied. I know that. What are you going to be working on this week? What are you striving for? What are the points of concern to you right now?
Well, right now, because it's a different preparation than the first two games, we'll be trying to get ready to, to defend against the passes. But, I'm very pleased the way we've been coming along.
Pleased with your defense, pleased with your offense, certainly. What about kickoffs, kickoff returns?
Well, we improved on that in this last game against Northern Illinois. We ended up kicking the ball off on the ground across the field because it was wet, and we were getting crazy bounces, and they couldn't set up the return. So after the first couple, it went down in the air, and they ran them back to about the 30, 35-yard line. We were very pleased with the overall results. George Murphy is doing the kicking now.
Okay, and you got things under control. 57-3 was the final. And next week, it's going to be an aerial battle, I guess we can say. And we'll see if the Hawkeyes are up to that. Tune in next week for the Hayden Fry Show.